Hello and welcome to The Way Home, Crossnore Communities for Children's Facebook Live show, as well as our podcast. My name is Holly Kessler, and I'm the Senior Director of Community Relations at Crossnore. We are here every Tuesday afternoon talking with some of our staff members or a community partner about the work that we do at Crossnore or ways that we are engaging in our community. If you miss our live show, you can always rewatch on our Facebook page or catch the show on our YouTube channel. The podcast comes out on Fridays on our blog at crossnore.org, so there are plenty of ways to watch our show each week. Today's guest is Dr. Sarah Norris, Crossnore's Chief Program Officer. Sarah was a guest a couple of weeks ago when we talked about Crossnore services, so I hope you got to watch that episode. If not, skip back a couple of weeks and take a look at it. So I ask you today to join me in welcoming Sarah back to the show.
Hey, so glad to be here again. Doing great. Good to see you on this rainy day.
Again too. Glad to have you here. So for folks that maybe missed the first show, why don't you introduce yourself again and tell us about your role at Crossnore and anything else you want to share with us about your life?
Sure. So I am the Chief Program Officer here at Crossnore. I've been here almost 5 years. So I am the executive lead for all our program strategy, growth, and implementation. So I oversee all the folks that are working directly with our kids and the team that surround and support them. I've been in the field for almost 20 years in the child welfare space and clinical space. And so I'm excited to be at Crossnore and the work that we do. In my spare time, I spend time with my husband and 2 girls. They keep me busy, and we like to be outside. And we're getting ready for the holiday season, so they are definitely excited about that.
I bet they are excited about that. And you mentioned spare time, although I'm not convinced you have a lot of spare time, Sarah. But I also know that you're an artist in your spare time.
That is true. Thank you, Holly. Yes, it started out as kind of a self-care thing and sort of turned into a little bit hobby, a little bit side gig. Definitely not a full-time thing, but I enjoy doing lots of mixed media and alcohol inks. And so, yeah, definitely. If anybody's interested in talking art, I love to do that as well.
Absolutely. And Sarah is even listed in our artists that we represent through our art gallery. So you can find some representations of her artwork on our website as well. So that's not the topic of today's show, but I always like to mention that because it's an interesting part of your life,
Yes.
I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, again, remind everybody what the mission of Crossnore is. What is it that our work is really about?
So our work has historically been and still is to focus on creating healthy futures for the children and the families that we work with. And we do it through a Christian sanctuary of hope and healing. That's been our overarching background, where we are just focused on serving the kids that are with us and families that we meet along the way, and hopefully help them land in a safer, more hopeful, healing place once they are no longer working with us.
Great. That's terrific. Well, we talk a lot about parenting roles here at Crossnore. And as we talk about growing those healthy futures for children, obviously that entails some parenting. So what do we mean when we talk about parenting roles?
Yes, that's a great question. So parenting looks like a lot of things at Crossnore, and it is definitely our most critical role because these individuals, and I'll get into a little bit of the differences, but they are spending the most time with our children. Right. So our therapists kind of come in and out, our case managers, some of the other folks that work with our kids, they are seeing them on maybe a weekly basis or a couple times a week. But our parental roles are the ones who are parenting our kids, just like I parent mine or you parent yours, or all those folks that are listening have their own families. So it's a very critical role. And we have 4 main categories of how that parental role plays out. In the volunteer space, we have volunteer foster parents. So those are folks who are living in their own homes, and they have decided that it's part of their family plan and kind of wherever they are in their life, that they want to give back in a way where they are able to take children who are in foster care into their home. So they may have kids or they may not, but they are still working full-time jobs. If they work, they are still kind of doing life as usual, but they are serving as a parent for an additional child or more. They can serve anywhere from 1 to usually 5 is kind of the typical amount of kids. Sometimes it can be more, but they're serving in their own family, and they just kind of weave them into their normal life. So that's one space. They do get a small stipend. It is not a full salary,
Right.
but that's a space. And then we have three other spaces where it is more of a career, professional role that is part of their actual job.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Yeah. So tell us about those roles.
Sure. So we have had the one that's been on both our campuses for the longest, and we have lots of folks that have done this role and continue to do, is what's called a cottage parent. So cottage parents live in the cottages that are on our two main campuses that have, on one in Winston, we've got 7 cottages, and in the Avery campus, which is up the mountain, there's 13 cottages. So
Mhm.
each of those cottages have 1 to 2 parents that live with them. But what they do, rather than it being full time all the time, they do a rotation of 7 days on and then 7 days off. So it's
Okay.
kind of the closest comparison would be when you have children that are going between 2 parental homes and you co-parent, and so kids end up kind of having a split way of where they're working with different parents. So probably the closest thing for folks that aren't familiar with it to imagine, but they're paid a full salary, and they work in the same cottage. So they're coming back every other week back to the same kids that are in that cottage, and they have a peer partner that they are kind of trading off with in a sense. So that's our cottage parents.
Right. And I often describe that as it's sort of co-parenting, maybe in like a divorce situation, but
Yes.
nobody's mad because
That's right.
those two sets of parents work really well together to keep things as consistent as possible from week to week for those kids.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. I may use that in the future.
Yeah.
No one's mad at each other, which is
Right.
hopeful. So similar to that, we have what's called residential advisors. So they're very similar schedule to cottage parents. The one main difference for this is we have 3 cottages that are specific for kids who are in our independent living program.
Right.
So these are kids who are 17 or 18 up through 21 that still need to have the parental role that's there taking care of them, making sure they're getting to school, getting to their job, but they're going to not need quite as much as a younger child, hopefully. So our RAs are able to work with them in a way that gives a little bit more autonomy for our kids to be able to kind of become adults and work through all the things that you do as you're moving into adulthood. And they still do a schedule where they sleep in the cottage and stay with them for 7 days, and then they rotate out similar to the CPs. But what's really great about the RAs is they can focus on these older youth and teens, and just they're having different conversations and they're working on different things with that age group around what do they do? What do they want to do after they graduate? Do they want to get a job? Let's learn how to do laundry and cook a meal and all those things that you want to do at that age, which is very different than our younger children who are in our other cottages.
Yeah, I was thinking that they spend probably a lot of time, thinking about life skills and working on those kinds of things. Maybe even, if one of our young people has a job, how to budget and make sure you're paying your bills on time, but then what do you do with money left over, and all of that kind of practical sort of life experience.
Yes, that is true. And we actually have curriculum that they can use to help guide them and work with the youth on. It's really a great experience because they're able to see what happens once they leave us and kind of move into adulthood and help them make some of those real critical decisions that we all have to make at that age.
Yeah, the other thing I like about our youth independent living program, and the RAs I'm sure involved in this too, is for those older teens doing some things that are sort of normative for their ages. So for instance, getting a driver's license.
Yes.
So making sure they take driver's ed and they get their driver's license just like any other kid would, because that, especially for a child that's growing up in foster care, that's an important part of independence, is being able to drive.
Yes. Yes, they are able to. And we have some cars we're even able to work with them on. So if they don't have to have their own car to be able to practice and to get good at that skill. Yes, it is really neat to be able to help them do those things. Or if it's creating the resume because they're going to go apply for some jobs and do some practice interviews. And we want it to be as normal as possible in the sense of for them not to miss out on the things if they're playing in sports. And we've got lots of RAs that are going and picking kids up after school because they play on the football team or they're doing some other activity that they're interested in, and they are able to provide that support that gives them opportunities to try things that they might not be able to try otherwise.
Okay, so that's a good sort of definition of the cottage parents, residential advisors, and kind of ways that they overlap and ways that they different rather. And so then what else? What other parenting roles?
So there's one last role that sort of fits in the middle between the ones who are staff, the RAs and the cottage parents, and the ones who are the volunteer foster parents. And that is a relatively new program for us. And it's really a new concept for the state of North Carolina, which is professional foster parenting. And our program is specifically called Bridging Families. So we call our parental roles in this program bridge parents. Mm-hmm. So bridge parents, the concept, if you think of what a bridge is to provide support for kids who have had to move out from living with their birth parents. And we want them to, as quickly as possible and as safely, as long as it's safe, to be able to be back home with parents. Well, these bridge parents are kind of the bridge between having to leave those parents and getting back with them. So they are full-time employees. They don't work another job. They are provided housing. So they live in one of the houses that we either own as Crossnore, or we're working with another partner to provide that housing for them. So they don't have to worry about that. And they have, their schedule is they're full-time parents. They do have some days once a month where they can have a respite opportunity if they choose, where they can take a couple days off. I kind of consider it, if I leave my kids, if I have my parents keep my kids for a weekend and my husband and I go and we take a weekend trip. So, similar to that, where they have some opportunity for that. But they are full-time employees they've got all the benefits that all our other staff have. They have a salary, just like our other staff. And they are doing their full-time job as a parent, which is really what we want is like our volunteer foster parents. They're doing that, but yet they're not getting paid a salary. They're paid a very small stipend, just the way the system's set up. And our cottage parents and our RAs are providing a salary, but they're not doing it and having housing all the time. So they're having to go back home on their weeks off. So this is kind of the best of both worlds, not just for our staff, but also for our kids to be able to have the continuous support of the adults that are working with them as their parental role. And this role is also very imperative because it works more closely with birth parents than even our other roles, just the way the program is set up. They're really helping coach and kind of support the family as a whole, because the purpose is really to reunite that family as soon as we can.
Yeah, so to reunite the family as quickly as possible so that the children spend less time out of their home than they might ordinarily spend, right?
Yes, that is correct. That way we can hopefully give them back the normal life that they want to have and that they deserve, with the least interruption as possible. So this is a really neat program that has most recently been kind of blessed by the state in the sense of both funding and support in general of kind of our licensing criteria and all those things. So it is, again, a new concept for North Carolina. We have not had this sort of professional foster parent model in this way before. And so we at Crossnore are super excited about what might come with it in the future.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And we already have a couple of employees that are working as bridge parents and have been working with a set of siblings whose parents are working on their reunification plan. And so kind of overall with those families we've already worked with, how is that going, Sarah?
Yes, it's going really well. So we started initially with one. We didn't want to start too large starting out. Right. We had one family, and then we actually have now 3 homes on our Avery campus, and we have another couple in the Avery campus and 2 to 3 on the Winston campus that will be open within the first quarter of next year. And then we will also have 1 or 2 homes out in the Hendersonville region in the first half of next year as well. So it's very quickly kind of growing. But what we've seen so far with some of the families we've worked with is some initial very positive outcomes from just the kids and being able to have that wraparound support, and also the birth parents who are now being reunited and have been able to spend time and increase that bonding while they've been in care, which isn't typical in a normal kind of setup with DSS and the way the system works.
And as some of the stories that I've heard coming from some of the bridge parents are really around this aspect of helping the birth parents and really sort of mentoring and coaching them, recognizing that sometimes parents, they need that help. They need that modeling. They need that coaching. They may be parenting the way they were parented, which may not have been the best way. They may not have ever had anybody to show them how to
Right.
how to do all the things that it takes to raise a kid in a healthy manner. And so not only is it a service, I think, for these families and helping them reunify with their children much more quickly, but I think it's really fulfilling. That's what I hear from bridge parents, that it's a really fulfilling way to sort of feed into these folks' lives and help them reunify with their kids.
Yes, that is very true. We definitely, the number one thing that we need in this role, but also in all the roles, is a focus on wanting to give back and wanting to make a difference in the families' lives. In this role in particular, it's more than supporting just the kids. It is supporting the entire family and being able to kind of wrap around that family unit, which for some folks may sound scary, like that feels like a big task. But the good thing is we have an entire team of wraparound support. We've got lots of training. We have constant kind of folks that people can go to, 100% 24/7 on-call support. So there's lots of things where if there are folks out there that might be interested in this, it sort of sounds interesting to them, and it kind of tugs at their heart that this might be the right potential fit. Just know that those scary moments we have of just kind of wondering what supports there are at Crossnore, we make that a high priority for this folk.
That's a great point too, because it's not just the bridge parents alone. There's a whole team that works with each family and each sibling group. So
yes,
thank you for reminding us of that. Well, is there a specific type of person that you're looking for, Sarah, in any of these roles, or maybe it's the same type of person in all the roles? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So of course, number one is passion for children and families. So that definitely needs to be a prime thought of anybody that's interested in doing this role, like having a desire to be able to give back and support, of course, is number one. There are some general staffing and licensing requirements, and you can find out more specifics of those on our website for all of these roles, passing background checks, all those kinds of things. But for folks that kind of have the passion, they know they would be able to work through the background checks. They don't have any concerns in those spaces. What we're really looking for is someone who wants to be a parental role and then can look at each of these roles and try to determine which one fits where they are in their current life. So we have a lot of folks who are retirees who decide they still want to do something. They maybe have had an entire different career, and now they want to be able to give back in this parental role. And the CP role is the fit for them as a cottage parent because they like to travel on their weeks off. So they are able to give back one week and then they travel the other week. So, that's just an example. We have other folks that being a volunteer foster parent makes sense because they can't move out of their home. They may have children that are in their home schools. They may have full-time jobs that they don't want to leave. So volunteer foster parent might be the right fit for them. So what our focus on is really looking at if you have the passion and you can kind of pass any of those requirements that we have, trying to make sure that we're clear on what the best fit is. And we have folks that can kind of walk people through more specific questions if they are interested in that.
Yeah, that's great. I think you're right. Having the passion to help kids and to help families. I think it's important to think about what's best for the child and for the family that you're working in. Like we can't really go into these roles thinking, I'm going to change this person's life, or I'm going to mold this person's life or whatever, because they're individuals and they have a life and they have a background and experience and family ties. And so it's really about supporting that child or that sibling group, that family where they are at, but then helping them to find those healthy patterns of relating to one another.
Yes, that's right. And again, like we mentioned a minute ago, we have a whole team that can help support our folks who are right there with the family most of the time to be able to have staffing and support just to make sure that they're doing that in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's true. In all of the
Yes.
parenting roles, we have on-call available, there's
Mhm.
case managers, there's therapists, like there's a whole team of people, whether you're a volunteer foster parent or you're a bridge parent or, cottage parent or RA, there is a whole team of people involved
Yes.
in all of these cases.
Yes, that's right. And there's a community of others who are doing the similar role that you can rely on. And we find that they have, each of these roles has been able to build a community and a family really
Mhm.
within themselves on both our campuses. And we eventually, as we start building a team out in Hendersonville area and Polk County, we expect the same thing of because relying on each other is really helpful. And our foster parents, they have a support group. They've got lots of
Mhm.
connection points. They have Facebook groups. There's lots of ways that folks are staying connected because when you're in this type work, it's good to have others who have been through a similar experience that you can call when you need to, just to kind of vent or to ask questions or to just
Yeah.
share your stories with, which is really nice.
Yes, and our fostering communities team really is tasked with building a lot of that support network in the community around those folks. So whether it's churches or organizations, businesses that want to give back in some way, then we can plug you into some of those support networks to help support both the parents, the children, and then the Crossnore employees or foster parents that are working with these families. So lots of support all the way around.
That's correct. That's right. And one other thing just to mention real
Mhm.
quick is we have seen where folks have kind of fluidly moved between these roles too. So there's a
Mhm.
potential if someone is interested in one of these now and you think, oh, in 5 years I might be interested in a different role, there's an opportunity that we
Yeah.
don't expect you just have to stay in one. Like we have some chance where people have changed positions and changed
Mhm.
based on their life circumstances, which is really
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, you touched on this a little bit, but is there anything else you want to say about how salary and benefits work in some of these roles?
Yeah, so for our bridge parents, our CPs, and our RAs, they all have a full-time salary. You can, for
Mhm.
any of those that are posted on our website, you can see the salary ranges there. And that's obviously based on previous experience, education, some other pieces. So, I don't want to put an exact number out here, but you definitely can kind of see the range of each of those on our website. Volunteer foster parents get a stipend. So it's a monthly stipend per child who is placed with them. And those stipend amounts are dependent upon the ages of the children. Those are
Mhm.
state determined, so we do not determine what those amounts are. So that's kind of, and if the state changes the amounts, we would obviously change our amounts. So it's a much smaller number than a typical salary.
Mhm.
For benefits, we have insurance. You can see we have all sorts of other things that are outlined as well on our website that all of our employees receive. And so those CPs, RAs, and bridge parents receive the same exact benefit options as our other roles, such as a case manager or therapist, that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
So those are important. For bridge parents, the housing is included. So that's as part of their role because you're moving into a home. We provide what comes with housing. There's also for that program and for our bridge parents when you're here with us in the RAs, we have to feed everyone. So there's
Yeah.
budgets that are included for meals. Within a limit, you can obviously spend more that would be beyond that, but that would be your own funding. But we do have a budget for food. We also, we love for all of these roles to be able to go on summer vacations. We want all our kids to experience summer vacation just like
Mhm.
if they were with their own families. So whether that's going to the mountains for a day trip or going to the beach for a week, we have some money that they're able to use for that. So there's lots of things that are built into the program that
Mhm.
it benefits as part of the role, but it's really designed to first benefit the children that we're working with.
Yeah.
And currently, we have a sign-on bonus for bridge parents. So we're looking at this may not be forever, but for right now, we have a $3,000 sign-on bonus for those who end up becoming bridge parents that we are excited about because this is a role that we are highly, highly committed to finding the right folks that can go into that. So I believe that's most of the benefits
Yeah.
in salary. If there's other questions, of course, you can call us and we can try to answer those more specifically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that sign-on bonus is amazing. That's
Mhm.
quite a benefit to have for anybody that's interested in that bridge parent role. That's terrific. Well, kind of end us out today, Sarah, by telling everybody how they can find out more or apply for one of these jobs.
Absolutely. So you can always go to our website. That's crossnore.org. And on that website, there is a careers page where you can go, and it lists all our different roles that are currently open. And then you kind of go through the process where you actually apply for those roles. If you're interested in volunteer foster parents, there's also a foster care page under our services tab. So it kind of tabs down and you can see foster care, and that will explain kind of what foster care is and how you go through the online application there. You can also call, and so our number is 336-721-7600. You can call and either ask to speak to one of our foster care representatives, or even specifically if you're interested in bridging families and want to learn more about kind of the way the program works, ask for Melissa Hurst. She probably doesn't know yet that I'm putting her name out here, but she is right now doing some really specific recruitment and tailored conversations with folks that are interested really in all these roles, but especially the bridging parents. So you can call 336-721-7600 and ask for her, or go to our website, and there's a place there where you can also put in questions to submit if you want someone to call you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is terrific. What interesting information, Sarah. Thank you so much again for being here with us and telling us about parenting roles at Crossnore and how folks can get involved in helping those. So, or helping in any of those positions. So I really appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely, Holly. Thank you for having me anytime, and hopefully look forward to hearing from several of you if you've after you've listened or tuned in.
Absolutely. Well, as I've thanked our guests for today, let me also say thanks to each of you who are watching or listening. We appreciate so much your time and the opportunity that we have to tell you about Crossnore. For more information, please visit our website at crossnore.org. You can also follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and we hope to see you there sometime. That's it for today, but I hope you will join us again next week on the way home.